Hello, everybody, and welcome to the fourth and final game of round one of the Return of the King 2025 Invitational Tournament. Got another great one for you here, I suspect, because I have here our two players for this set are Ace and TheFatHobbit. So, thanks to them for joining us in our European contingent of this tournament. Which is indeed that the action dice are preset, and the free people are required to crown Aragorn turn one. This is, in fact, the third game of their set, so we're watching the deciding match. And tokens were bid, and they, in fact, went all the way to 3 tokens for free people. And that strikes me as very interesting, given our previous games, which you should definitely go watch. They've all been excellent. Trying to think if there's any other upkeep. I don't think so. We'll jump into it. So we have TheFatHobbit as Shadow. He gets Musterings of Long-Planned War and Black Captain commands, both good cards. A Desperate Battle, really, and Black Captains is good. But here's the real kicker, Book of Mazarbel. So the free people has 3 tokens and a card that will help them crown, and they can get the dwarves to war if they want. So this could be quite the game. We'll jump on into it and see where we go. Eyes allocated already. Yep, that's so very true. Choosing to use a token right away to delay showing that you have a card, in particular that it's book. That's very interesting. I like that. Isengard is mustered, and there you go. Gimli and Strider hop on off to North Dunland. This will be our first game of the tournament that I've casted that did not go to Minas Tirith, which is interesting. And obviously Book of Mazarbel promotes that. So, and Boromir came too. Wow, a whole host. So the free people effectively just did 7 corruption to themselves and the loss of Strider, although that was required. Saruman comes in, and Book is, of course, played. Deja vu, apparently this happened in one of their other games. Brings the dwarves to war, and Gondor 2 is activated. Would have almost been funny if the Shadow had anticipated this and put Sauron to war, allowing for the Witch King to come in. And because of Gandalf in play, free people draws into Risers of Theoden. That's pretty good for them. Gorgoroth is emptied, mostly to Minas Morgul and some to Morannon. Interesting. And of course, Aragorn's crowned. So we have our game, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, and just to clarify, the free people has a shadow token, but that's just to indicate they have 2 muster tokens for them. In case that was unclear. We go into round 2. Free people draw scouts, the Spirits of Mordor scouts, which is my favorite of the scouts, and an int. A little early for an int, but always fun. Candles for Shadow. That could be with so many characters out of the Fellowship, Candles doing some early corruption could maybe really matter. And Orcs multiplying again, but since you haven't moved out of Mount Gundabad and Dol Guldur, that's always nice to see. 0 eyes allocated, as the Fellowship did not move last round, and only 1 rolled, and a muster, some Palantirs, some okay options for Shadow here. 2 wills, 2 characters, and a muster for the free people, so they get to do basically whatever they want. What do you open with this Shadow here? You open with a draw. Okay, draw into threats and promises. Holy cow, these are just not fantastic draws for Shadow. They put Sauron to war. Makes sense. Fellowship moves. Is safe, but only by 1. And Minas Morgul goes out. Debate. Thinking about it. Orcs multiplying again. Okay, yep. You were going to play a card at some point with a Palantir. Why tip your hand when you can have 6 free reinforcements? Fellowship moves again. Very safe this time. And Dol Guldur moves out towards Lorien. That makes sense to me with the full stack there. Although, I wonder if I would prefer... I wonder if you're scared of a Yeah, with the dwarves at war, do is a lot less enticing, and Lorien being a full stack, or not a full stack, but full initial forces, if you move to Woodland Realm with this army, could end up being a little scary for a Free People's military victory attempt. Free People's puts Gondor towards war with a token. The Witch King comes in to South Ithilien. Okay. Free People's moves again. Their Fellowship moves again, a 50-50 to get hit, and is not hit. So they're in Moria, or assumably in Moria. Osgiliath is hit and scouts to Pelargir, and they get their muster into Minas Tirith. This feels very bad for the Shadow. Gondor's at war, has a mustered Minas Tirith, has Boromir in Dol Amroth with a reinforced Pelargir. This just feels awful. Black Captain Commands comes in to get two free Nazgul and to siege Minas Tirith, so that's good. Yep, an elite in Dol Amroth, so the Gondor pool is just gonna muster right on away. Yep, that's terrifying. All right, but no Gandalf, so that's good. For the Shadow, that was quite the hand that could have caused a round 2 or 3 Gandalf. Shadow gets Cruel Weather and Half-Orcs and Goblin Men. That could matter. We could get a push back into Moria with Cruel Weather, which would be cool. And Free People draws Thranduils and Mirror, so a chance to get a somewhat sneaky Gandalf if needed. One eye allocated. None more rolled, and again, pretty low on the attacks for Shadow. And only mediocre cards. And the free get 4 musters. 3 musters and a hybrid. Yeah. Shadow draws, Shadow lengthens, the 2 armies, 2 regions. I believe that has a good chance of mattering here. Free People passes. Moranon moves to Dagorlad and South End Vale to Dimril Dale. So just moving out armies. That makes sense. Attack Osgiliath would be funny to block Shadow lengthens. What a read by Ace. Lorien is put under siege. Sure. Okay. Fellowship moves. And there's the hit for a 3. Surely Gandalf is dead. Yep. Half-Orcs and Goblin Men is played in Lorien. Okay. Just to be absolutely certain, Lorien goes down. Gondor gets a leader in Dol Amroth and a regular in Pelargir. With all these musters, Gondor is just going to be so mustered up, and their Shadow lengthens. So Far Harad goes to Umbar and Dagorlad to Osgiliath. The Far Harad to Umbar is only of medium usefulness, but it was nice. Overall, a Palantir being this many moves on this turn was really handy for Shadow. An elite in Dol Amroth. I'm a little surprised not a muster in Pelargir. That feels like you're risking Osgiliath taking Pelargir here. But Shadow instead draws a card. Probably just looking for good stuff they can play against Minas Tirith. A muster in Lossarnach and Pelargir. I'm not feeling that. So with this early Gondor, we're getting near the end of the Gondor pile already. And actually, if he attacks Minas Tirith, you have no regulars with which to make change. That's a thought. I don't think I would have put the regular in Lossarnach, but maybe. Lorien is attacked. Elves are shoved towards war a little bit. Interesting, we're not hitting Minas Tirith here with the Witch King to cycle cards, but that's fine. Devilry of Orthanc versus Daylight. 2 hits for Shadow and 2 hits for free. Shadow will take that all day long. Free decides to make change with the regulars, the elites into regulars. Press, of course. Another card, presumably a Desperate Battle. It is the Pits version of Desperate Battle. I would have favored musterings there, but this is an ultra minor thing. And Heroic Death could be good, or Shadow could just hit 3 6s. Are we not doing the rerolls? Oh, four hits. Yep, because Desperate Battle. Well, splat goes Lorien. That's pretty big for Shadow. They have definitely a big enough army to matter when going to take Rohan. And the Free Peoples does Edoras to Westamnet and Fords to Westamnet, which, okay. There's no other half move you wanted there? Gimli and the dwarf to Grey Havens? I don't know. All of that feels useless. And the Southrons are mustered. Okay. Free People draw into another Ent and Celeborn's. Celeborn's 1 round too late. That's unfortunate. It could have made quite the difference. And Lorien holding 2 Ents with Gandalf in the wings. Shadow gets Oleg High and give it to us, so that's good. 1 eye allocated. 1 more rolled. Again, really low attacks for Shadow. Crazy. And the Free People get plenty of musters and a couple characters, but no will. However, they are holding Mirror of Galadriel. So they could use their character die to get a Will of the West to get Gandalf this round. Wonder if that's going to happen. A pass. Okay. You're mildly risking a Day Without Dawn there. If you do it now, you can get a for sure Gandalf without Day Without Dawn. But Shadow decides to draw a strategy card and gets Rage of the Dunlendings, which I think is actually a fantastic card for them here. Go threaten Rivendell or the Shire, or even just throw everything you have at Rohan and then circle back around for Gondor and just punish them. The army from Osgiliath consolidates in Minas Tirith, mostly I imagine for the leadership, and then near Harad consolidates in Umbar. Okay, not my favorite move, but I understand. On a recruitment of an elite in Dol Amroth, I do think at that point you're kind of indicating to the Shadow you don't have Guards of the Citadel. I'd lean a little harder towards 2 leaders mustered here, or even a leader and a regular. Minas Tirith is attacked. Card versus card. Not going to think about that. Hard's probably Daylight. Oh, look. Daylight versus Desperate Battle. The classic. Shadow gets 1. Free People gets 3. So, yep. Good hits both sides. Press draw. Gets draws into Shadow's Gather. You don't spend the Mumakil here because there are no Mumakil. Those are some cards. Man, those are tough cards. No card for Shadow. Yeah, that's a tough position to be in. Thranduil's is played. This could really go sideways. Shadow gets 2. Free People get 5. Ooh, are we going to have a sortie? Yeah, Sally forth from Minas Tirith. Now, unfortunately, there is a Dread and Despair, so the Witch King is safe. However, because you mustered your 1 elite, you cannot do a meaningful muster in Minas Tirith. So Southrons and Easterlings are put to war. Yep, and you get your last regular. You get a regular in Minas Tirith and a leader in Dol Amroth. I mean, that stack in Dol Amroth is crazy powerful, but it can't go anywhere because you're scared of Corsairs, or you should be. Olag High is played in Osgiliath. That's thoroughly reasonable, especially with all these Palantirs burning a hole in Shadow's hand. Fellowship moves again. Will they be caught? Nope. Pretty safe and sneaky little hobbitses. That said, of course, the Fellowship is at an effective -4 corruption with no Strider halfway to Mordor, which is a pretty weak position to be in, and Gimli's probably not going to matter this game. Although, again, Rage, maybe he does. That is good. A good point itself. If you go for Shire or Grey Havens with Rage, the dwarves are at war and have nothing better to do with their lives than to go defend those locations. So there is that. Shadow puts Give It to, or draws Give It to Us. Thinks about playing Give It to Us, rather, and does indeed play Give It to Us. Get it out of the hand. Yep, makes sense. Fellowship moves again. Come on. Tough hit for Shadow here. And once again, like the other games, I am by no means cheering against Ace. I would consider both of these players, good friends, friends of mine, and I'm just cheering for who I perceive in this moment to be the underdog. An elite mustered in North Dunland, yeah. So slightly tipping the hand of a Rage of the Dunlandings here, but if you can ever have a turn where the free people don't have very many musters, a cheap Rivendell can be a big deal. And the free people still don't have Gandalf. They decided to not use Mirror of Galadriel and instead move twice, which, if you get those 2 moves, that's pretty good. Círdan's Ships is drawn, so Pelargir could have a bonus to elites or Dol Amroth. That could be quite a big deal. I Will Go Alone is drawn. That might matter. You get a Hobbit out somewhere for fun. Still 2 Ents in hand. Shadow gets Palantir or Orthanc. That could matter quite a bit. And fighting Uruk-hai. Certainly Helm's Deep or even Rivendell, as I've said, could be under siege relatively soon. So we'll see what happens. 1 eye allocated. None more rolled, and finally a turn with a bunch of attacks. Even now, it's only 4. Those 2 musters and 2 Palantirs feel relatively weak, and that's a roll for Shadow. The free people have 3 movement, 2 Palantirs. That sounds like you muster twice in North Dunland, or muster once and even use a muster die to play Rage. We go get ourselves a cheap Rivendell. Free people passes. There's an elite in North Dunland. Yep. Ace knows the game well enough. I think he's detected what's happening. There's a bit of thinking. I bet he's deciding which die to use to play Rage, and he chooses to play it with a muster. Yeah, you have Palantir of Orthanc you might want to play, and maybe Shadow's Gather, but yeah. So look at that stack in Holland, a 4-2-2. Fellowship moves again. Safe, jeez. Are they gonna... Okay, if they ring, they could make Mordor this turn, but they'd really be pushing it then. You bring the Moria regulars. I do not think you need that. You're holding fighting Uruk-hai. Surely a 4-2-2 takes a 0-2-1. I guess maybe you're worried about Kindred and you just really don't want to make a whole extra trip. And Umbar goes to West Rondor. Fellowship moves again, is safe. Oh, man. Well, we move to Trollshaws and the Near Harad to Umbar just to protect against shenaniganery. Sure. It is funny in these games how quickly Shadow suddenly is like, I have 3 armies and that is it, and nothing else I want to do. I think I would have probably gone for Lorien to Parth Celebrant here. Start moving towards Rohan, just so it's available when you want it. But an Elven Ring is played. Yep, we're going to hit Mordor, turn 5. Can he hit? He does. A 2 reveal. Hey, 2 stronghold tiles could be a big deal. Chooses to reveal in Minas. Whoop, we're thinking about, you want a random. Why would you want a random? Oh, because then it will have, a Hobbit will have like a billion moves. Okay, Legolas. So then we do a Moria tile, for a 1 reveal, which is, of course, a Hobbit that pops out in Minas Morgul, or in South Athelion, I guess. And then the Minas Morgul is an eye. That's unfortunate. Shadow does not immediately play Lure of the Ring because they know that free people cannot hide. Rivendell is attacked. Free people pass. Palantir of Orthanc is put into play. Free people pass. Fighting Uruk-hai is played. So yeah, this is going to be good. Ooh, 3 hits off the top for Shadow. 2 back, but that won't be nearly enough to save Rivendell. Round 2, and there goes Rivendell. And a draw for Shadow because of the Palantir. Chooses to draw which deck? Yeah. I mean, the Fellowship's only at -1 corruption, and you're holding Lure of the Ring. Which maybe you don't even want to play in case the 0 reveals are drawn. That feels a little wacky. I think you draw strategy here. Yeah. You get King is revealed, which could be activated, but probably not usefully. Elven Cloaks goes into play. That's going to be quite the pool. They do indeed update it a hair early, but that's fine. That's a very free people friendly pool, or at least could be. 4 eyes would suck to hit, but 5 tiles, 6 tiles that are 0s or 1s, not red. Minas Tirith is attacked again, and Osgiliath puts it under siege, not leaving a regular behind. I'd be a little scared to do that, just in case the Pelargir army goes off and does something wackadoodle, makes your life sad. Still no Gandalf. Grey Company and Faramir's are drawn, which is fun, but the Gondor force pool's effectively completely tapped. Faramir's could bring a regular and a leader in, and Brave Stand's good. What do you throw here? An Ent? Probably an Ent. Shadow gets Wormtongue and Horde from the East. A Deadly Strife certainly matters. Oh yeah, free people throws I will go alone. Really? Throwing a Daring Defiance rather than an Ent? Okay. Fellowship okay. 1 eye allocated. Holy buckets. 6 musters. 6 musters for Shadow. Surely they're up on musters. You won't be able to see. I'll do a quick check. They are +5 on musters, +6 on Palantirs. 25 of their 40 dice have been musters and Palantirs. Holy buckets. Free people gets their will. That's a bit much. Of course, we bring in Gandalf. Where are we going to bring him in? In Fangorn. Yep, that makes sense. Shadow's spending their 1 attack, although if they recruit the mouth, they get another attack. Attacking Minas Tirith with a card. Maybe it's the Deadly Strife. It's a Cruel as Death. Yep, Cruel Weather did not end up mattering here. 2 hits for Shadow. Canceled a little bit via Shield Wall, so 1 each. Press draw into Swarm of Bats. That's pretty good here, I would imagine. It's Relentless Assault. Yep, that makes even more sense. You relentless yourself twice. There you go. 4 hits for Shadow. Almost. The Heroic Death will buy the Free Peoples 1 more round in Minas Tirith. Fellowship hides. Waiting. What did I draw? Yes. Yes, you did. Okay. I don't quite know what we're doing here. He drew the wrong type of card. He drew a strategy card rather than the character card. And he draws into Gron, so hey, good for him. Spends an Elven Ring on a muster to attack Minas Tirith. Foul Stench for cycle, basically. 0 hits for Shadow. And 1 more for free. He does cycle into Breaking, which won't matter. Mordor. Will Mordor betray the Fellowship? Fellowship moves, and it's an eye, so there goes Hobbit, and we're revealed. Do you take the time to play Lure here? Or Breaking? For their 1 corruption? You have Palantir, so it's a cycle. Chooses not. Elite in Isengard, pass. Elite in Isengard, pass. Elite in Isengard, pass. Get the mouth in Minas Morgul. Pippin is coming for mouth, better be scared. Yeah. Free people spends their token last token. Yeah, I was wondering if that would matter. It's mostly just a reversal of the turn order, although maybe the muster of Rohan will matter a little bit. Mouth is used to allow an attack on fords. Interesting. And free people does have a Palantir and 2 Ents still. No card, no card. Shadow gets no hits. Presses. Leaves 3 regulars behind. Although, this is tough. You don't have another attack as Shadow. So free people spends their half action, their hybrid taking as Gileath and reinforcing Helm's Deep. It would have been, I guess, if the Shadow had Ring Wraiths or abroad, they could besiege Helm's Deep, but I almost would have preferred to start with Ents as free people, see if you can snipe Saruman, and then even if he puts Helm's Deep under siege, that will put Rohan to war, and you can recruit in Westonnet and then attack over the siege. I kind of like that. Maybe that's just me being silly. Shadow plays Shadows Gather. Oh, oof. Yeah, that works. So that was a pretty good play. Now we have a 5/5/6 over in Fords. And he chooses to draw a character die. He gets Lidless Eye. We might be in one of the situations where Lidless Eye matters. Free people draws a card. Why are we not enting? You might deprive Saruman of his die next round. That's surely worth your 2 character cards. I must be missing something there. And let's be clear, Ace is number 2 on the ladder right now, and I'm like 97th. So we go into the next round. Shadow is full on dice, but so is the free people. Free people draw into Challenge of the King. Ooh, that'd be fun. And Dane. And Shadow gets Dreadful Spells and Monsters Roused. Generally good cards. Probably throws Breaking or Lidless Eye here. They do indeed through Breaking. And free people draw is going to throw out Gwyhir? They throw out Great Company. Okay, a Brave Stand is gone. Okay, sure. Fellowship is okay. 1 eye. No more eyes rolled. So a good turn for Frodo to get moving, and finally a lot of attacks. Every single die can be an attack for Shadow. And well, let's see what free people's rolls real fast. 3 moves, 2 wills, and a character with 2 hybrids and a muster. So where are we at? Fellowship's going to hide and perhaps move twice, putting them in range for next round at best. Shadow's at 4 points, though, and Minas Tirith will go to 6, and then has a pretty big army, a reasonable chance of just sweeping through Rohan and taking Pelargir from the south. Shadow has quite possibly enough to win this round. Interesting. Free people uses a will to hide. That seems reasonable. I can't believe Shadow's this close. It's felt like they've been on the back foot the whole game. How is it this close? Helm's Deep is attacked, of course, putting Rohan to world war. Yeah, perfect roll for Shadow this time. Fellowship moves. Interestingly, spending the character die rather than the will. Presumably, Shadow would have spent their Day Without Dawn if they had it, I guess. 2 corruption, no reveal. We'll, of course, take that as free. I don't know where the we came from. Shadow attacks Minas Tirith. Okay. Yep. Strategy card for the cycle. Is it a desperate battle? It is indeed a desperate battle, and there's the hit. the cycle gets into Devilry of Orthanc, which actually will matter quite possibly in Helm's Deep. Pelargir is attacked next. There's 2 hits. Nice for Shadow. None for free. Press. And they retreat to Lamedon. With 2 hybrids and a crazy big army, the Free Peoples might do a pretty big retake on Pelargir here. That could be fun. Free People passes. I'm not sure I like that. I think you should threaten Pelargir before he, maybe. I don't know. Helm's Deep is attacked. Strategy card versus something else. Character card. It's Devilry of Orthanc versus Ents Rage, so big hits on both sides, maybe. Shadow gets 1. Ugh. And Free People get 2. With Ents Rage giving them hits on 3s, they got 2 hits. So much for big hits for everybody. Oh, geez. Press, of course. Still a very big army for Shadow. We play They Are Terrible, which with the 1 Nazgul that they have there, so that's handy, allowing them to get hits on rerolls. And then Nameless Wood is played for bonus hits from Helm's Deep. Shadow gets 2 on the incoming, and Free People gets 4 on the outgoing because of Nameless Wood. Press again for Shadow. Devilry from Dreadful Spells. They've got they've got dry dice is what they've got. Free People hits. Press again. How is it always Helm's Deep? You come in with a 5 regular, 5 elite army with infinite leadership against a 4 regular, 1 elite, 1 leader, and somehow the Shadow army always just disappears. Deadly Strife, there's the 3 hits for Shadow, and there's only 1 hit for free. So Helm's Deep has fallen. Only one more point needed for Shadow. Although with the Dwarves at War, Dale is less tasty than normal. I wonder where they're going to hope to get it. Free People spends its regular muster, making Edoras pretty inconvenient. Moving out of Rivendell, threatening the Shire and Dale at the same time. Interesting. I like pressing on all of these fronts at once. If the Free People uses their 2 hybrids to attack Pelargir, they'll really put themselves in a... Yeah, but then they could bring the North Downs to Buckland, cutting you off from the Shire fairly well. I'm very interested to see what happens. Free People passes. Yeah, you probably need to make the Shadow show you your other hand, although they kind of already have. Aragorn and Boromir move to Lamedon, and Erebor empties to defend Dale. Character die to move everybody around. All the Nazgul, or at least most of the Nazgul, are moving to Pelargir to make quite the stand here. Círdan's Ships is played, so a 4-5-5 in Lamedon. Buckland and Vale of Carnan, I believe it is, are moved into, yes, by the North Runes. So, I don't know, man. The army in Buckland is certainly enough to take the Shire. And then even if they don't, if they do, even if you retake Dale, or excuse me, Pelargir, that 5-1-0 in Vale of Carnan could sneak around Erebor in kind of a really inconvenient way if you get some bad dice. And you still need 3 full moves out of Frodo without getting stuck on 6 dice. That's a little dicey. That said, Shadow has a Dread and Despair, and that's it. They have a Words of Power. I take that back. That will actually matter in the fight, possibly against Aragorn / Boromir. The Free People have a Sudden Strike, a Daring Defiance, and a Valor. Maybe that's part of why they were willing to leave Erebor so open, as they have Danes. But those are fantastic cards for retaking Dale. I think it's a pretty... Retaking Pelargir. I'm sorry. It's a little late here. But we got a fight on our hands here. A 4-5-5 with Boromir and Aragorn against an 8-2-9 with the Mouth and the Witch King and a billion Nazgul Southron army. Free People opens with a strategy card, so that's going to be the Valor versus a Words of Power, canceling presumably Aragorn. Nope. No hits for the Free People and 4 hits for Shadow. And they draw into a character card. That's an interesting thought. I guess they only had character cards to spend, so they draw into a Red Tail. Shadow, Free People has to press, so they're going to press all the way down, I'm sure. Character card versus character card. Here's the Sudden Strike versus Dread and Despair. Sudden Strike says nothing. Oh no. The turns have tabled on the luck. Shadow gets 2 hits and Free gets 1. We're at what? 6 hits on the Free People to 1 hit on the Shadow. No card. You're not going to spend your Daring Defiance? Oh, seeing that the Free People, or that the Shadow only has a character card that they just drew, he decided to not, that there was unlikely to be a card worth canceling. There's 5 hits for Free People. 2 hits for Shadow, though. Oh, man, that was a bigger hit than it's 5 is a big hit. So it's now 6 hit points with 2 companions versus 6 hit points and 2 minions. Staying. 1 hit for Free. Holy cow. And 3 for Shadow. What a roller coaster indeed. My heart hurts. We have to press. Thankfully for Free, it's still 5 dice due to the 2 captains. There's 2 hits. Just 2 hits, though. And Shadow wipes. Wow. What a turnaround. And then we use the Mouth. Attack the Shire. And it's GG. What a game. Shadow turned that around. Yeah, the dice were in their favor right at the end there. Unfortunately, the combat dice are combusted, so I can't show you that in the statistics. I can show you what the statistics look like in general, but they were +5 on Palantirs, +5 on Musters, -6 on Eyes helped. But still, so few attacks, and so they had to be so efficient. What a game. What an amazing game. So this does indeed mean that TheFatHobbit will be advancing and I didn't say that about the others because the games were not necessarily a decider game. This was the decider game. Free People had 3 tokens as well. What a game. That was fantastic. Well, thank you both for playing, and thank you all for watching. This is, as I said at the beginning, the last video in the first round. So we will be seeing the semifinals in the next sets. No idea what the schedule on that will be. As of recording this, they haven't been played. So we'll see what happens there. But I look forward to showing you those games, and I'll see y'all in the next one. Bye.